Welcome to the Ref Room, hockey talk for referees, coaches, players, and fans.
Broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
With your hosts, Scott Smokin, Silz, and Brad Baumruck.
Live.
The Ref Room starts right now.
And now your host.
All right, it is Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to the Ref Room. I am Scott Smokin Silz, coming to you from Chicago, joined by my man Brad Baumruck. It's been another exciting week of hockey. I know some of you guys have survived the CCM weekend for this is the week where everybody's trying to recover, basically. So anyway, we've got lots to talk about today. I see the Senators, Ottawa Senators, have taken a little 3-game sabbatical. A little news in the NHL. We'll probably chat about some of that stuff, but we do have a very special guest today. We are joined by one of the coaches. I know you guys all know him very well because he is he's with definitely like the top organization for hockey here as far as high school hockey goes. They have more teams than anybody. It is New Trier, and Chad Bidwell is our guest. Chad is the head coach of the white team. He's the co-head coach of the green team. He's been the Winnetka hockey. Is it director, Chad, I think?
That was many years ago, back when they were doing Central State stuff.
He's been around forever, and he's one of the good guys. We see him all the time because he lives in the rink just like we do. So welcome to the show, Chad.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we want to talk a little bit about coaching today and some of this stuff. I mean, you guys are obviously, you got to be the biggest organization we have in high school hockey here in Illinois. I mean, how many teams do you guys have? Between the girls and the boys, you've got what?
Between the girls and the boys, I think there's 7.
7 teams. Wow.
I believe
how many players
between the girls?
How many players is that then?
Oh God, you do the math.
140? Because they all roster 20?
I mean, roughly. We typically, green and white take usually at least 1 extra.
Okay.
If not 2. Most teams take 1 extra. So
that makes sense.
At least for the boys. I'm not sure about the girls.
Okay.
How many games in a season do you guys play? I mean, I know you guys are busy. What's your typical season like?
For green or for...
Let's talk anyone? Green, and then let's talk about the others, like the teams that are more upcoming.
Green typically will play anywhere from, I'd say, 60 to 70 games.
Wow.
Including playoffs and whatnot.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's amazing.
It's definitely a lot.
Yeah, and you have 2 coaches with that team, you and Bob Melton.
Yep.
That's a big commitment because I see you guys at other games as well. It doesn't just stop with green or just green and white. I mean, You guys are around the rink. We see a lot of you.
Yeah, we're committed to the club, that's for sure. I mean, tonight Bob can't make it. He actually is doing JV this year. That's why.
Yeah, I wondered about that because I've seen him at some of the JV games. And I'm gonna let a little secret out of the bag, and I think you guys do a great job with this. This is something that I've noticed over the years. When you play at Winnetka, you're already in the program basically for New Trier because you guys have been around there, and it's like they're already learning your system so that they can just kind of segue right into your program very nicely. And I've noticed some other teams starting to do that. I think Evanston has tried to do that, and I've seen a lot of improvement in their teams over the last few years. I think, is that the trend?
It's smart. I mean, I think actually more so than Winnetka now, Wilmette has actually made a push to really try and keep kids from going to other, Central States clubs. And Wilmette renamed themselves the Junior Trevians.
Yeah.
Oh, so I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
didn't
where did they come up with that name, huh?
Right.
I get it, but if you really think about it, like Chad just said, that's super smart. In some of the areas, where I live out here in Plainfield, there's just the kids are too spread out. They come into the high schools, so they play. Some of them play at Sabres, some of them play at Huskies, some of them play at the Hawks. It's just kind of basically where you live. But if you have everybody in that same area, you can start working with each other, and it ultimately builds better hockey players in the end. And that's what we're all here to do, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's when Bob and I were more involved with Winnetka and Wilmette, that was kind of the, like the baby white, right? It's the same concept. Last year's green team graduated, which is majority of our players, but we had those guys for 6 years.
Wow.
Wow.
How many of your guys have gone on, like, let's say in New Trier, your green team? Let's just take last year as an example. How many of those guys went on to play like college or juniors or somewhere above and beyond high school?
It's only a couple. Honestly, I wish it was more. I think that a lot of the guys that we get back, especially from AAA, have kind of, I don't want to say burnt out, but they want to play really good hockey and enjoy it in front of, a packed house of, when you play Loyola of 1,000 people. And it's still really good hockey, don't get me wrong. I mean, is it a level below Tier 1? Yeah, for sure. But again, when you break down the top teams of high school, they're competing with, other AAA teams outside of Illinois on,
right,
almost a tournament basis. So, again, those guys, I think, come and they'll, we get guys playing D1 club and we'll get some guys going to play D3, NCAA and stuff. But it's lower than I would have imagined over the years is how many guys actually want to.
I'm surprised because, I mean, you guys have been just, you pretty much dominated Illinois hockey with the exception of maybe the couple of years Loyola had a pretty good run there.
Yeah.
How long have you been?
Had a good run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long have you been at New Trier?
10 years.
10 years. How many championships have you guys won?
Oh, God.
Loaded question.
Yeah.
6? I think 6.
6 state championships with Green in 10 years. That's pretty amazing. Yeah. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment. I mean, obviously, you guys are the team that they're gunning for all the time, which makes it even tougher, I'm sure, throughout the year. Who do you like this year? I mean, I know this, this may not be your strongest year. Am I fair in saying that? Like, you're good, real good, but it may not be your strongest year you've had. Who else do you like this year? Who else is giving you great games that you think might be the contenders?
We haven't played Loyola yet, but I've watched them play, and they're a big, fast, strong team that puts a lot of goals in the net. So they're for sure a force that we haven't seen yet. Honestly, we played them in the spring because, just a little, info. Spring for us is important. It's not like a normal spring, because I think I've told you before, Scott, you can't pick a team in tryouts when you're playing against your buddies.
Right.
So,
that's true.
That is true.
That is such a true statement.
Not the same.
Sorry.
Some play better, some don't play as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've even done tryout games against Loyola and GBN to try and, weed them out, I guess. But Loyola's good. Actually, York's got a good team. The top to bottom from SHL, I think, this year is, it's anybody's run. It really is. GBN's good. Again, we're in the mix for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're younger and we're a little bit smaller than usual. But not a ton of experience at that level. So they're getting going a little bit. It's just going to be a little bit longer than usual is probably what we're used to.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, how about your other teams? First of all, I think we should, there's some confusion out there. I mean, we were talking about this before the show started, but like the rank order of each of your teams. It's Green, obviously, is number 1.
Yep.
And then who's your number 2 team?
So again, going off of what we started a number of years ago, it would be White, which is technically our U16 team.
Right.
And then you'd go Blue, and then you'd go Gray, and then our JV team.
Okay.
And that's
2
Scott,
girls teams or 3 girls teams?
2, I believe.
2. Are they both varsity though? 2 varsity?
That's usually how it was. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. How many players did you end up cutting? Like, you got all those teams.
Almost.
How many? You still cut players. That's blows my mind.
Yeah. So even with taking the extras, I think we cut almost a team's worth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which again, that is not a fun time.
No.
No.
But thankfully, again,
it's tough. It's tough.
Timmy, Ben's over at Wilmette, who's their hockey director now. he's, obviously in contact with us, and he does a good job of putting together, a midget team or, whatever it is to give them an option. Because, again, we don't want to send kids to the hockey graveyard. I mean, that's just no fun,
Right. Yeah, they should still have a place to play and develop.
Exactly.
And, what's interesting about that you brought up Tim is one of your guys' opponents in the league with Viter over there.
Tim, yeah.
So
is Tim still at Viter? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah, he's Viter.
Yep.
That's
Yep. So that's great though that he's accommodating still at the other level, and a lot of people are like, oh, these two coaches, they may get into it on the ice. It's kind of interesting. It's an interesting dynamic when two coaches go at each other, and then afterwards they're like, yeah. So anyways, so it's just the heat of the game, and referees need to remember that it's emotions that carry these things, and a lot of these people have relationships beyond it, and they still work together for the betterment of the game. That's one thing that officials should remember every game, before and after, and you can stop like. Chad, I know I've talked to you in the rink, like I'm just walking through and you're there, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? How are you doing?
Right.
So we talk about it, and even if we had a hard game the game before, we just walk in and no hard feelings afterwards. We just got to keep moving with it.
Yeah, I mean, festering isn't going to help anything, right? I mean,
you can't hold a grudge. You're going to see the guy again in another week or two, and it's certainly not personal.
No, I mean, it's just like our players. Everyone's going to make mistakes. Coaches make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. I mean, trust me, I get as heated as it gets sometimes. You know what I mean? But you got to let it go.
Yeah, I mean,
especially, go sleep
I got
on
to
it.
be honest. You guys have a pretty calm demeanor on that bench.
Yeah.
It's not like some of the other teams that we see where, like they're jumping up and down, screaming, and their hands up in the air, their hands down. I mean, you do see that. It's, I mean, I got to give you a lot of credit because, like, New Trier bench, everybody's seated on the bench. You don't have 18 players hanging out over the boards with sticks over the boards and chaos. It's like everybody's sitting on the bench. You'll stand when it's your turn. I think that's awesome. I mean, it shows you got control of your team. It shows they're not in a panic. They're used to being in the heat of the battle. I like to see that as a referee personally. And it certainly makes it a lot easier on the linesman that's working over in that area. He doesn't have to worry about taking a stick in the face while he's trying to get out of the way of a play.
I mean, we harp hard, from the beginning of the year moving forward on the right way to play, and a lot of it for us starts at off ice practices, team meetings. We're heavy into those, early in the year. And everyone actually gets a printout of what's expected of them. There's a lot of meetings. There's a lot of practice talks. And then again, your captains are your extension of your coaching staff. And, they've got to do a good job of holding guys accountable as well. It's just it's a team sport, right? It's the ultimate team sport. So a weak link will just knock everything off and fall from there. So that's a huge part. I hate I say it bitching, but just, complaining constantly, whether it's players or anyone. I mean, I've never changed a call, right? I never got a call changed once the arm goes up. So
if you're Sidney Crosby, you can get it changed, but that's about it.
Guess, yeah.
Yeah, that was that
Not
one
on that
time.
level.
I don't think that's ever going to happen again.
But everybody knows about it. Like, everybody knows it. It's like, oh, the Sidney Crosby call. Take him out of the box.
Well, Scott, I'll admit, I was doing a game a couple weeks ago, and it was a JV game, and I'm coming down the ice, and I'm where I'm supposed to be, and player's got the puck, defenseman's behind him, about a stride and a half, 2 strides, and he reaches out, right, with his stick, parallel to the ice. All of a sudden, the guy's arm gets tugged on. He loses the puck goes into the corner, the stick goes with him, right? I put my arm up, and then I have a horrifying moment the second my arm goes up, and I realize that it was the offensive player's own player that was on the other side of him that accidentally hooked his own guy coming down the ice.
And what do you do in that case? You just kind of scratch your arm?
Act like, no,
unfortunately. My elbow pad.
Just wipe the back of your helmet. And, I was like, oh, like the second I realized, I realized it the second my arm was up. And I'm like, I hit the whistle. I tell the guy to go to the box. On the way to the box, he's like, I didn't hook him. His own guy got him. I go, I know that. I realize it. I go, you're a victim of circumstances right now. I go, it's my fault. I go, just get in the box. And then I wheel over, and of course, I'm right in front of that team's bench. And hey, that guy. I go, yep. I definitely screwed that up. He's like, no worries. He goes, the guy had his stick up. It looked like it. He goes, it happens. So it was an overall pleasant thing. We don't like to do it, and I felt horrible the whole rest of the game. I should have gotten over it. I did and finished the game, but I felt horrible.
But you're still
I'm
talking about it a couple weeks later, which means
I feel bad.
about it. Referees do feel bad. I mean, let's just say this. First of all, referees don't care who's playing. They don't remember what the score of or who played in the game before. They honestly don't. I don't think. And they don't go home and go,
that game.
oh my gosh, the third game of the day, it was 4-3, with 2 minutes and 43 seconds left when I made this call. They're not like that. I mean, they just get out there, they focus on the task at hand, and it is what it is. And yes, there are times where you're sorry you might have put your hand up in the air on an occasion. It happens. But, you take the good with the bad, I guess. But,
like I said, luckily it doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
But the second
make it happen.
I felt so bad. And then to just really put the icing on the cake is when they got scored on.
Oh.
So it's like and then of course, I report the goal and then I wheel by their bench again and I'm like, I'm sorry. He's like, look, he goes, it's part of the game. He's like, get over it. He's like, we got another 2.5 periods to play. He's like, we're tied right now. It's not that big of a deal. Which they did. I think they did end up winning. I don't know the score, like you said, but they ended up winning at the end. And then the coach came by and he's like, hey, just remember, next time you have our game, no hooking calls on a player that didn't hook anybody. I'm like, I gotcha. So, it all ultimately ended good. It could have ended a different way.
The hockey gods prevailed in that situation.
The hockey gods are a fickle bunch. If you mess with them, they kick back.
Yes,
so
they do. That's right. So with 7 teams, Chad, I mean, oh my God,
There you go.
what is your ice bill, and how do you guys pay all your bills and operate with that many teams going and that many players? I mean, that's got to be a full-time
It's a
job
gigantic bill.
Can you explain how that works? I mean, it's pretty.
I mean, we've got a pretty dedicated board that have specific jobs of, again, like we've got Laura Brown, who's basically our ice scheduler. She basically is in charge of trying to work with the coaches, again, with the games and the practices, and and then we've got, again, individual bookkeepers that it's basically what they do is like it's a thankless job because again, they don't get paid, but it's not easy. I mean, with that many kids, and we've got ice all over the place.
Well, Chad, with you doing the multiple teams, are your practices back to back, or are you practicing one place and then driving to another rink and doing a practice there?
Both. Depending on a lot of our like dedicated ice slots. Like we've got some back-to-backs Thursday at Wilmette, so that makes it easier. Sunday at North Shore back-to-back. But again, then like on Monday we've got after school 9 o'clock at Wilmette, 9:10 at Winnetka. So it's like you got 2 days, I think 3 days maybe with some back, but I think we even have ice this year Saturdays in Buffalo Grove at Twin Rinks at like 4:40.
Oh,
we'll take, I guess, anything to put the kids on the ice.
Yeah. How many days a week do they skate typically for most of your teams?
Like for green and white, 5 days almost for sure.
That's games and practices, 5 days.
Yeah.
Wow.
Depending on like running up to that CCM, we were 7, 8, 9 days in a row. Just because you end up playing so much. I mean, you can't.
How'd you guys do?
You got to get your games in. It was all right. It was not a bad tournament for both teams. White made it to the semis, lost to. What did they lose to? I forget. They were a good team, and then Green got knocked out, I think, in the quarters. So it was a good tournament overall. I just like playing, different teams.
Yeah.
That's the key for me. I don't like playing the same teams a bunch. That's.
Well, everybody brings a different style, so you learn.
Right.
Your players learn. It's kind of like the thought process on the East Coast where they do their tier 1 hockey and their high school hockey at different times of the year.
Yep.
Because the idea and the thought process there is the player then plays on 2 teams every year and has to forge different relationships, and they become an overall better player. I don't know. I don't know how well it works, but I know that they're keen on it out there. So
I think a lot of areas do that, though, I think, as well. I think, obviously, Illinois does not. But, I mean, even Wisconsin, Ohio, they've got, what you're saying, basically what we call them before and after teams. Tournament before, tournament after teams. And then they'll play with either their high school or whatever it is. Like, Green every year goes out to Cleveland to play St. Ignatius out there. And that's why we're going. We usually go around December is because they're just basically getting going.
Okay.
And getting some games under their belt, and we'll end up playing, Gilmore's team and St. Francis, and those guys you'll see, they'll have different color helmets and gloves, and because they're coming from everywhere, which is great. It's fun.
Yeah,
interesting.
Some good hockey.
Yeah, it is.
So, do you guys take a lot of road trips with New Trier? I mean, how many times a year are you guys on the road with like the green team or the white team?
Typically, I'd say green team goes out of town more often than not. Just again, being your top team. I'd say usually we're out of town 3 to 4 times a year, and then doing local, whether it's the CCM, and then this year we're actually doing the I don't think they call it the Ho-Ho tournament anymore, but it's the holiday tournament that's down at Fifth Third, I believe.
Okay.
So we're actually doing it this year because one of the biggest sticking points was no one wants to play games December 26th. I mean, it's just
they don't.
It's not
they don't.
Not our guys. Not our guys.
I'm not reffing that day. I'll tell you,
so they moved the tournament up though, which is great. So now it's like the 16th to the 19th.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So again, you're giving some time off, which I believe in. These guys take a beating, so they need a little bit of break.
Well, that's cool.
I agree.
So with 7 teams and all that, how much is your ice bill a month? Do you have any idea of what your ice bill is a month?
I honestly couldn't even guess it. It's got to be scary though to look at.
I mean, you must have tremendous support, like from the schools, or do you guys operate completely as an independent organization with all the money? I mean, is that a varsity sport at your school where they get a letter, or
no.
It's a club sport still?
Yeah, it's still club. We have not. I mean, we've got a pretty dedicated board that's tried to work with New Trier every year for whatever reasons, difference of opinion and whatnot. Hasn't been able to really catch on. It was more so years ago than it is now, but we don't have that good connection with them. But things can change.
I was going to say things can change because the high school that I went to, we were a club sport, and we weren't allowed to even wear our jerseys one year.
Oh wow!
On Fridays because
we
were not. Yeah, because we were not a sponsored sport, and that changed. It was a long story gone awry, but it was like 1 year we weren't allowed to, and then a parent got a hold of whoever was doing it and explained, these guys, we're funding this ourselves, and all these other players get to sport their stuff, and how can you do this? Now you're removing these kids from something that they do because A, you don't enjoy it, and B, you don't want to give them any kind of acknowledgement because it's not a school sport. Like, how can you do that? And eventually calmer heads prevailed. But yeah, I remember I think it was my freshman year or something.
What school was this?
No, we're not going to go there.
Oh, you don't want to go there?
Not going to badmouth any schools.
Right. Well, I mean,
I'm not that kind of person.
I played, when I went to high school, it was a club sport. We paid for it ourselves, but we could wear our jersey on game day to school. And they supported us, by the lunchroom, which was huge. They would put up signs and they'd put the scores up of the games and everything. But, we did pay for everything ourselves. So, it was a club sport. If you wanted to get a letter, the way we had to do it, we actually had to go join the speed skating team. And you had to, they had have a city championship, and you had to go to the city championship, and you had to get a medal at the city championship to get a letter. So you had to finish first, second, or third in whatever event they gave you. So basically, the whole hockey team would go out to the city speed skating championships with their hockey skates on, and go skate for their medals so they could get a letter. So that's how I got my letter. Honestly, you didn't get it for hockey.
That's amusing.
We'd give everybody a stick to put on their letter, a little gold tiny hockey stick that would fit on your letter. But that's how we did it, and that's how you got your letter.
That's almost as odd. That's almost as odd as when I got my jacket, my Letterman jacket. I had like 7 or 8 buddies that played on the biggest rivalry against me, and they were looking for one person in order to make the jacket order 10 because it knocked down all the jacket orders. So all 9 of them were opposing colors, and then mine was the rivalry one. And when I went to go pick it up, the place was like, I think we ordered you the wrong jacket. I'm like, no. I go, these are all my buddies. I've grown up with them. It just happened to be we wanted to knock the price down. And they were like, oh, okay. So yours is just as odd as mine,
Yeah.
But so very interesting, though.
Yeah.
I didn't know. That's kind of interesting. And then somebody put in the comments that Stevenson in the 80s didn't let them wear their jerseys. The jerseys are putting out posters or interesting.
Yeah, let's look at a few of the comments. Just let's see where we are here. Say hello to some people. Joe Prescott checking in, and he says hello to Alan, the scorekeeper in Skokie, and he says, guess we'll see you at Skokie tomorrow. There you go. Alan says, Skokie, Illinois, how did you become a coach? How many games you've been kicked out of? He wants to know how many games you've been kicked out of. Have you ever been kicked out of a game, Chad?
Yes, I have.
You want to tell us about it?
Sure. I don't care.
It starts off, the idiot referee did this. No, I'm kidding.
I'll be honest with you. When I get a penalty, I'm going to get my money's worth. I'm not going to say some little thing and then just get, teed up or tossed. I'm going to get my money's worth. But probably in 15, 16 years of coaching, I'd be surprised if I've been tossed of maybe 4 games, maybe. I don't even know if that's honestly.
Pretty good self-control, because I think we have some coaches that do that just on a regular season.
Yeah, again, but then
is that fair? Does that sound about right, Brad?
There are a few gentlemen that have some problems controlling themselves, but I told you I didn't launch anybody last year or in 19, but I launched somebody at the beginning of this year, and like Chad said, let me tell you, he definitely got his money's worth. So for him, I give him the respect that he at least made sure it was well worth it. But, it is what it is. But it was interesting because after he was ejected from the game, then his team started playing the game again, and then they played much better. So, I get it.
Sometimes it's
no hard feelings.
It's a way to get your players to respond.
I have no problems with that.
The only thing I can say is I think that once the coach goes downhill, usually the team goes downhill with him. And what I mean by downhill, just their attitudes change considerably, and it gets bad, and that transfers down from the coach down to the players. That's my experience.
Well, that's kind of right, and that's kind of like what we talked about before. Of like if we run things specific on what we expect of them and ourselves, it's not a very good example either. Right. Don't get me wrong. I will protect the players at all costs, especially if there's a bad hit or whatever it may be. But, getting tossed early in the game or something, I can basically imagine my team will unravel. It's not a good thing.
Oh, I want to ask you something, because this is something that I've become more and more passionate with over the years, and that is, kind of the protection of the referees when they're on the ice, and getting hit with, guys making a run at somebody when the referee is directly behind them, and the referee gets banged pretty good too. What do you teach your players? What do you tell your players about referees and when they're on the ice and how to handle themselves and that sort of thing? How much of a discussion is that with you guys, with your teams from year to year?
It's a part of like the ongoing conversation and learning of the game for our teams, especially the younger kids. Especially with white, I'd say even more so, and even green when they get hot-headed. And basically the first thing we say is keep your mouth shut. Just play the game. If there's an issue, let the captains address it with them first. If it doesn't work or you don't like the answer, we will talk to them. But again, it's about being respectful first and foremost. You know what I mean? And it transitions. If you play the game the right way, it's good on and off the ice. Now, does that mean they're going to do it all the time? Oh, of course not. you know, but I think our teams are pretty disciplined at it. And again, that's the same thing of like taking a run at a guy. Again, you got to look where you are. You got to look at your surroundings. Where are you from the boards? Where are you? Is this back to you? Where's your stick? Everything. You can't go blasting someone, especially if there's a ref right there. You got to pull up, as hard as it may be. And at times, they're young. Some, especially with White, you've got a handful of freshmen. These guys are going to try and hit, no matter who's standing there. If their mom was probably standing there, they'd probably try and hit them.
Hit anything that moves. That's what we say.
Exactly. So. Again, it's about being respectful, though, at the end of the day, I feel like, helping them out with icings on two mans. Our goalies always shoot the puck down.
Yeah. We appreciate that. Let me tell you, that goes a long way. I will say that I think that a lot of the teams that come in from out of town are better at picking up a puck for a referee or pushing the puck down. I mean, Illinois, they push it back behind the goal line, make you go even further and like slow the game down even more. Like they got the puck and they shoot it backwards. It's like, come on.
I think our goalies like to do it. I think they like practicing shooting it down.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can't hear you, Brad. Are you just mouthing, or did you lose your audio?
I lost my audio.
Oh, there you go.
I clicked the cough button. See, I'm getting better
the cough
with it.
button. There you go. So
but I got to remember to hit it back. No, I'm going to say this season, I think during the whole playing of games, like where it was, no fans and stuff like that, the players actually started to shoot the puck down more.
Yeah,
and it's actually transferred into this season. So,
it's
and like Chad
better.
said, there are some clubs that do it every time, and then I think it's just gotten better and better. So, but it is super appreciated. Like,
I think coaches should just teach that. I think it keeps the game moving. It just makes it better. That's how they do it at the higher level. They get that puck up there and they keep things going. Keeps everybody happy. Goalies handing pucks to referees, not, throwing them down on the ice or whatever. I mean, just little things like that. Very nice. Let's look at a couple more of the comments. Joey Heaton says, great officials, great coach. Thanks, guys. I believe that's Mr. Hirsch. How do coaches feel about supposed rivalry mentality between high school varsity versus Central State's midgets? Interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, I don't think there's a huge rivalry aspect because of, kind of like what Brad was talking about earlier is, it depends on where you live. A lot of these midget teams, whether it's, that are near us, Falcons or whoever else, they're pulling guys from a lot of places. And that might be their best option, to play at the highest level. I know like the Falcons pulled guys last year from, Crystal Lake and, 30, 40, 50 minutes away. And Falcon Central State's like their midget major team. That's a good hockey team. Yeah. It's a really good hockey team. And that's their best option, And so for us, at New Trier, we don't really, there's no, like, I'd say compete in terms of, like, guys are picking one or the other. If they're going to play on green or white versus, a midget Central States, they're going to most likely 99% of the time pick, New Trier. Again, so I think the rivalry part for us is a little bit
well, it helps. You've got a great history with, putting out some really good talent and good product that a lot of guys are going to want to play there because they're going to want that opportunity to play for the best games and play, for a championship, which is what I think a lot of them are expecting when they get there, that they're going to make a run at it.
Yeah, and kind of like we said before, guys that come back to play, whether it's green or white or whatever it is, it's you're playing good hockey, you're playing in front of your friends, a packed house, state, championship game where there's, ton of people. And again, not knocking anything else about midget or anything. It's just dependent on what works best for you. And typically we'll end up playing a lot of those midget teams, whether in practice games or in the tournaments or whatever it is. And they're always competitive games, So it just works what's best for, that player and where they're living and where,
typically,
what their options are.
Are you pretty competitive then with like a U18 Central States team, do you think, like the green team? Or is it more like a U16 AAA team that would be more in
Yeah,
your wheelhouse?
typically I'd say like an average year, green should be better than I'd say most
Central
of the
States teams?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Average. You know what I mean? Again, not to
Yeah.
say we can't beat everyone or lose, but
Do
average.
you play any
yeah,
of the
we try.
AAA teams? Do you have a practice game against any of the AAA programs?
We used to, but that's in their mind, and I get it to an extent. It's kind of a lose-lose for them. You know what I mean? Now,
Yeah.
if they play us or they lose or whatever it is, and again, I don't look at it that way, but
Right.
so our best chances when we go out of town, sometimes we'll put ourselves into the AAA bracket.
Okay.
And then we'll end up playing, Michigan MDHLs and teams from all over their AAA again, which is different in theory, right? But
Yep.
it's still a AAA program. It's still Tier 1.
Right.
And Green this year I think went 1-3 in that 200 by 85 in Detroit because we were in the AAA bracket playing against Tri-State. You're playing against
Yep.
legit
Yeah.
players that want to go
I've
and
seen
try.
some changes in that even. Like to me, if you saw Fox Ford a couple of years ago, they were more like a Central States team than a AAA team.
Yeah.
Now, oh no, they're good. They're winning games. Let's see, we got a couple more comments here. Mr. Hirsch says, back in the 80s, Stevenson High School used to bar us from wearing jerseys and putting up posters for games. I wore my jersey for my senior yearbook picture and got in. Okay, very cool.
Yeah,
Now they've
I didn't know
digitally
it was-
changed that.
I didn't know that it was that that way in some of the other schools. He says, then again, we sucked.
Well,
All right,
now
well, I can't
Stevenson
help you with
has
that.
support. Stevenson has
they're-
support now.
They're through the
do they?
school.
Yeah, they're through the school. They're
They take
one of
bus
like
to their
3 or
games
4.
and everything.
Yep,
They've got a good connection with their school now, which I think a lot of people would like to have.
I agree. I think
So
that
they-
would be.
You'll see
What
their
would,
you see
what
their
would you
yellow
like to
bus
see
at
when
away
you're sure
games.
that you don't have now?
Yep.
Just out of curiosity, like what would be an
I
improvement
just
for you
think
guys?
some support. You know what I mean? I think again, the kids want it, right? They want to be a part of the school, which again they wear the neutral jersey, even though it's a club. But again, having that with the school at the school recognition, being able to probably do more, have more as a student athlete, stuff like that. I think that they'd really benefit and enjoy it.
Well, I'm kind of surprised by that. If you got 7 teams, that's got to be the biggest sport in the school, isn't it? I don't think they have 7 soccer teams, do they?
No,
That's what I mean.
No.
So I would think you've got to have some clout or some juice behind that because they see the numbers are there. Obviously, it's a very passionate sport for most of the people that go to New Trier.
Does New Trier have football teams? Does anybody play football up there? Because my
They
high
do,
school, it's huge. Their football
Yeah.
program is
Yeah,
monstrous.
that's how it was where I went to school. The football program is the biggest program, and then probably the basketball program was the second biggest, followed by baseball and soccer.
yeah. New Trier's got a football team. They got a lot of kids on that team. Again,
Okay.
most of them are on the team. I don't know if most of them play, but yeah, they've got a pretty big football team. But yeah, I don't think a yearly basis the hockey is just numbers wise is pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely
See,
the biggest
Karen-
program I know of.
Karen says, I
Yeah.
can't think of another sport where the official chases down the game object. Yeah, that's a good point, Karen.
I get her.
There's somebody on, football, there's somebody on the sideline that throws you the ball or whatever. In baseball, they bring the baseballs out to the umpire. The umpires don't go chase the ball
Yeah.
around. You make a very good point there. I never really thought about that. So I think more coaches need to be aware of that then, and they need to teach
I got
that
an
to their
idea.
players.
During the stoppages, the coach, they have to have an extra guy on the ice. He jumps on the ice from the bench and goes and gets it.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen, but,
Yeah.
whatever.
Maybe that could be, like a mascot type sport that, we send the guy out to go get the puck between whistles.
Well, our game is kind of unique if you really think about it. We're the only ones that are actually locked into a playing surface. So every surface that you're in,
Yeah.
tennis, basketball, football, they have just lines. So, but we're actually barricaded inside of this
We're like a
this
cage
play
match.
this playing surface with 40 players, and then add up to 4 coaches, and then put 4 referees out there.
Yep.
So it's an interesting dynamic that we have to
is.
fetch it ourselves because nobody else can get in there. except for
Plus-
the parents go crazy and come on the ice, which
The referees have to be able to skate the game, which in most sports that's not the case. They're not skating. They're standing there or sitting, or they're maybe moving around a little bit, running up and down a little bit. But they're football's on the field, so you have referees that are on the field. Basketball, they're not on the court. They're on they do come on the court, but they're a lot on the sideline, aren't they? I don't follow
they're
basketball
mostly on the
closely.
sideline.
Yeah, so it is interesting. Let's see what else we got here. Mr. Hirsch says too many lawyers get involved with school districts. Yeah, he's probably
would
right.
know.
He would know.
He would know.
Our referee in chief says, "What does Chad look for in a pregame conversation with the officials?" Good question.
I like it.
Who's doing the game, I guess, right? I mean, green and white, I'd say we have more seasoned officials, right? Like you get guys that you probably know on a continuing basis.
Yeah.
Not a ton of, I'd say, younger guys that are maybe just newcomers. But again, like, Scott and Brett have seen, it's just, depending on the time too, quick chat, how you doing? You know what I mean? And keeping it light, fast, and, again, we're easy going. Again, like you said, it's we're laid back, right? I mean, we're hard on the players. We expect a lot, but we also understand the game from, trying to understand the game more from your side of, again, listen, we're not here to be against each other, right? I mean, we're not going to agree with every call. I'm going to talk to you about it if I don't. Say what I saw and go from there. I mean, it's what it is. And some of my, good friends that are officials are the same thing when they do our games. It's strictly just this, it's what it is. You know what I mean? They saw it. I'm calling it this. I saw it that. I don't agree. Okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Move on.
We may have different angles from what you have. You're on the bench. You're in a stationary position. You may have a better sight line at something than we do. Sometimes we may have a better sight line than you do because we're at a different angle and in a different part of the building. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Let's be honest too. I mean,
you can agree to disagree.
And everyone calls the game differently, right? I mean, everyone does. Like, a thing I was going to even bring up is that, like, we had two, I'd say, younger officials last night in the white versus prep. I thought they did a really good job. And the one thing we talked to the one official was going into the third period, it was a 1-goal game, is that we wanted to basically get the last change going, right? Yeah. And that is something that, and you guys can attest to when I'm done, is that every official calls or, orchestrates last change differently. And so it gets a little confusing.
It shouldn't be.
You bring a very good point up here, and I guess maybe we should talk about this a little bit because I think if you're working a 4-man, it's very defined, or a 3-man, because you have a referee that has his hand up and he's going to acknowledge the last change and he's going to check with whoever the home team is to go, are you good? And then he sends the signal and the linesman blows the whistle and we move on. But in the 2-man system, and this is my personal opinion, you'll have sometimes partners that start going over there and putting their hand up. I don't like that. I'm already watching. If I'm dropping the puck, I'm watching. I'm paying attention to who has the last change. I'm always looking at that. Maybe not in a men's league game as much, but for a high school game or a competitive game, we know who gets the last change, and that's when we blow the whistle. I don't like my partner going over there in a 2-man with his hand up. I think it looks like you're upstaging your partner in that situation. So I don't do it to my partners. I'll
just walk through last night though, like just so, because we had a friendly conversation afterwards. I thought, I don't know if he even quite understood, you know what I mean, the concept of it. Again, in my mind, and that's not being official. It's whether it's 4-man or 2-man, however you want to do be the logistics of it. It's a simple, visiting teams out. All right, you're good. Okay, whether you put your hand up or not, it doesn't matter. Whatever to me. And then again, you're looking at us. All right, I'm going. We're good. All right. Last night's game was he put his hand up. I get my guys out on their offensive zone face-off, one of our top lines. His hand's still up, and the visiting team changes. And he doesn't stop or change anything. And I'm like, that's, again, he's across the ice, so I'm just trying to make him hear me, is that's last change. Your hand's up. So you just negated the whole offensive face-off by allowing them to change.
He might not
So that
understand
gets
the full
frustrating
concept.
at times.
Yeah,
know.
it gets difficult with some of the officials. Sometimes they don't understand the concept. And it's tough, but it should be 5-5-5. Okay,
Right.
so the visiting team after play calms down. This is a hard part to teach to some officials. After the play calms down in your mind, you can start the line change process. 5 seconds. Try to acknowledge the visiting bench if you can. And in the two official systems, Scott, I'm with you. I'm watching as the guy dropping the puck.
Yep.
So I'm cool with that. I think that other one is just running interference that doesn't need to be doing anything.
Yep.
But if you go to different areas, some different areas, they actually do have the top referee every time, and that's how they teach it. It's not a set thing for USA Hockey. So if
it was consistent, I wouldn't have a problem. If that's what the system is that we're going to work and we're going to do that at every game, I fine. I don't have a problem.
I get it.
But
you have your 5 seconds. The visiting team has either changed or, if they're moving, right, that's them still changing. And then they dump their guys out. You got to be a little reasonable. Put your arm up. Okay, they're done. That's it. But unfortunately, I think some people, when they don't realize it, they're just putting their arm up to put their arm up because that's what they think they're supposed to be doing. Yeah. But when your arm goes up, that's now to the home team. You have 5 seconds to change. Now, here's where it gets complicated, is to where, and it doesn't sound like this situation, Chad, but I'm just going to bring this up.
Yeah.
To where the visiting team changes, but during the visiting team's change, the home team threw out one player and changed that guy. Well, now the visiting team has put their guys out. Now my arm is up. My arm should immediately go down. Well, when a coach wants to change after that, I get last change, but you already made a change.
Yep.
So you only get one change. So that's where it gets complicated with it. But this situation, I get what you're coming from. And it was just probably a little bit of lack of experience, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. I mean, again, it is what it is, right? It's hopefully learned, or learns or looks into it a little bit more. Because our guys are simple, like when how we instruct our team is that when the ref's hand goes up, whatever line we're calling, green, whatever, boom, you're on the ice. His hand goes up, everyone goes. All right, we're good, right? So we're pretty quick on those because again, when you're around again, it's you should get used to it, and again, like even some of the seasoned guys, I'd say at times their last change is it seems like a lot of guys are different. I agree it should be a very simple process in my mind, but even over the weekend we had a game where there was a 4-man and the two heads were doing it differently. And so the one guy would put his hand up immediately. And then, so his hand was up for visiting and home changes. So it was getting confusing on, when you're allowed to throw guys out. Yeah. And then he's pointing at us saying, come on, all right, fine, change. And then he'd point at home. And then the other guy would do it the normal way. You got to change. You got 3 guys, 2 guys, 5 guys. And then he'd put his hand up. So I was like, my mind is like, oh, my God.
I mean, they should be counting the number of players. When you look at the visiting bench, you want to count 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 players. 5 players are out there, hand goes up. Wait for the home team.
Or if they're just changing 2, just wait for the 2 to come out.
And a lot of times, I found recently – we've been doing more of the 3 and 4 man with some of the younger teams. Even we had 3-man with CCM, and the coaches don't even know about matching lines up at that point. So like you're putting your hand up for them, and they're like a deer in the headlight because they've never even had a 3-man. It's the first time. They're like, nah, we're not matching lines up anyway. It doesn't matter. But at the higher levels, that's a big part of the game. And, count those players, guys. Know how many guys are on the ice before you throw your hand up.
Yeah, and especially if they throw 6 out there.
Yeah.
You got to count that.
Yeah, some teams love to do that.
Well, yeah, we do have coaches that like to send an extra guy, so he's got 2 centers out there, basically, or two guys he wants where he can decide who he wants to keep.
Yeah, you have to nip that. You have to nip that in the butt.
Yeah.
as soon as
they'll
you can
push you
as
as
the
far
official.
as they can. I'm not going to mention who it is, but he used to coach high school here in the Chicagoland area. He doesn't coach high school anymore. I think he's a AAA coach. So for those of you at home that are trying to figure that one out, we'll just leave it at that.
I'm not going to lie. When a coach with the line change, when they want to test the line change every once in a while, I had a coach that questioned my rule knowledge during CCM on a penalty that I called or I didn't call because his guy basically ran into a defenseman that was standing there, but he ran into him. The guy didn't move, and he had his head down, so he ran his head right into this guy. Like, I couldn't believe that it happened, and he's yelling at me that it's head contact. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, and then I asked the linesman. They're like, yeah, okay. So in the third period of the game, though, after all this, because he has to come, he comes over and talks about it after the second period. In the third period, we have a neutral zone face-off right in front of his bench, and his guys come out. My arm goes up. The other team throws their guys out. Well, as they're doing that, I notice he takes one of his wingers off the ice and puts another guy on the ice. Well, at this point, he's losing, I think, 4 or 5-1. So I go, okay, I take mental note of it, and then we play on. And the next stoppage, I turn to him, I go, hey, just so you know, you got a free extra line change last time. It's not going to happen anymore. Understand? Oh, yeah, I got it. He was just testing me to see what I was doing, and I'm not going to lie. I kind of enjoy it when somebody tries to test me every once in a while.
Absolutely.
To see if I'm doing it, just because it doesn't happen a lot in line changes. A lot of line changes, like you said, they don't even acknowledge us. So they just roll through lines. So every once in a while, when I get somebody that wants to hold and change and get the last change and work with it, I enjoy it. I'm not going to lie, because it adds a little extra fun for me during the stoppage. Because basically, if not, I'm just...
Yeah, you're just raising your hand. Nobody's even paying attention. You're like, are you good? Are you good?
Yeah.
Huh?
I think that, like, the coaches, again, I mean, I know it probably doesn't equate a lot to the younger age, right? It's not a big deal, right? I mean, but, again, the older you get, the higher level, again, it's a big, like you said, it's a big part of the game.
Yeah.
And,
big part.
Again, especially matchups and home, away, defensively, we have game plans, right? And especially as the season goes on. And again, as for our staff, like I can tell you again, if we have no change and he puts his hands up, I'm quick to signal we're good. Just a quick, we're good, and so we can just keep the game going.
Yeah.
And that's appreciated that you even acknowledge them when they do that and look your way.
Agreed.
It's very much appreciated, because a lot of times you're just standing there looking at them like, hello,
Right, yeah.
like,
we're
hey,
always trying to
I'm not
signal.
like, hey, Chad, are you, and this is something that, I was taught at Steve Pataffy taught me this at a district seminar. Put both coaches' names on your thumb. So you can, hey, Chad, we good?
Yeah.
Brad, we good?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Hand down, let's drop the puck.
Yeah, I like
the
that.
faster you can get to it, the better off you're going to be. So something you guys
Yeah, the
think
worst-
about if you don't do it.
The worst is when you're doing a game, and it happened to me, and like last year or whatever, I forgot the head coach's first name during the game, and I knew it. I know I knew it, and I wheeled by the linesman. I'm like, hey, what's the head coach's first name again? I'm like, is it Brian or is it Bill? Or he's like, I honestly don't remember. I'm like, okay, so I just waited till their captain came out on the ice.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's your head coach's name? He's like, Bill. I'm like, oh, thank you. You have no idea, because I don't want to be like, hey, buddy. Yeah. So that little extra communication, I think, goes a long way, too, with the coaches. They realize that you're acknowledging their line changes, and you see, you should be a student of the game yourself as a referee, and you should be able to pick up on if they're matching lines, or you can tell that they want this defensive unit against this offensive line. You should be paying attention to these things throughout the game. Now, some referees may not, but I try to.
Even in two-man, I mean, if you see it's going on, and the coach says, hey, we want to change, we want to match lines or whatever. Just, okay, hey, you're the home team. Just hold your guys for a split second. Let them get their start. Just hold your guys at the bench for a second, and, we'll totally acknowledge. We know it's good to go. We'll have the whistle for you, and we'll play on.
We were basically doing that last night, just because I think they were getting a little bit confused. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was basically delaying, not trying to be, a pain in the ass for the kids, but they were about to blow their whistle, and I was throwing guys on the ice because they didn't probably understand the concept of it fully.
Probably not.
Which is fine. Yeah, I've seen the one kid a few times, and the other kid I'd never seen before. So again, it is what it is. You know what I mean?
That's where sometimes it helps when you got the older, one of the more experienced referees with those younger guys to kind of teach them the ropes on some of that stuff.
For sure, but again, obviously, most everyone knows about the shortages, right? So we gotta take what you get.
How come you guys don't ask for four-man for like all your games? Like,
I think green
the white
is
team is usually playing
four-man.
two. What's that?
I think green's almost always 4.
Green is, but blue is not always 4.
I think
white
maybe
is
you
not
guys
always
can speak
4.
to it. Maybe you guys can speak to it. I know there's been games, especially like practice games that we had scheduled early in the year. If we put them in at 4 or whatever it is, and they'll take them off. I don't know if that's just shortages on practice games, you know what I mean, or timing. But we have put in at times, depending on like the game. If you're playing blue or you're playing, a big, whatever type of rivalry game, we have put in. Sometimes it just doesn't always go through.
Yeah, unfortunately, like it's just the shortage. It's real. So if people aren't feeling it, like it's definitely real. Nobody's sitting in a room going, ha 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 ha. Ha. We're not refereeing games this week, to mess with you. It's, games are 2 official systems because, unfortunately, Saturday between the hours of 2 o'clock in the afternoon and 8 p.m., everybody wants to play.
Yeah, that's something else. So you've got 7 teams, Chad. Like I usually see you guys on weeknights more than I do on a weekend. But what is your philosophy with your organization with like the weeknight games? Because you would get, I'm not going to say better officials, but you'd be easier to get a 4-man if you wanted it on a weeknight versus a Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening. Do you guys encourage having games on the weeknights, or do you really prefer everybody playing on the weekend? And it's got to be hard for you guys because you can't be in 3 places at one time. So
I mean, the good thing is green schedule's set, but for the most part in the summer months, because they schedule super early and we kind of know we plan out, and then we'll go around white from there. But I personally do not have a preference, on when we play, right? I mean, as a hockey player, you should be ready to go. But again, I guess some of it depends on our ice slots themselves, right? Do we have enough ice to do an ice cut? In between the second and the third? Is our practice only a 70-minute? We've had to tweak those North Shore slots and take some of because we used to try and do back-to-back games on those. We just don't have enough time. And so it's kind of the same thing on Thursday. So if you do see us, it's usually the Thursday we'll met, maybe a Tuesday at North Shore or a Sunday North, but that's Sunday, so it's not easy, that's for sure, with all these teams, you know what I mean? And sometimes we'll end up missing games, you know what I mean? It's the unfortunate part of it when you play, green's playing 60, 70 and white's playing 50 games. Well, it's impossible to make everything, but besides Bob and I, that's part of, kind of like what we do as coaches with our team is to make sure we've got a good staff, on the coaching side.
I see you have one of our referees now over there. You've pulled him over to the other side, huh? Yeah,
right. He took on Gray, and we actually, which I think is good, kind of like with you guys, I'm sure, is we try and bring in some younger guys that played in New Trier, that trying to, want to be a part of it, get back into the club. Like this year, like for white, our staff is technically myself, Bob, Adam Cheris, who I think is probably watching this, and Matt Kenyon.
Tell him to hit the subscribe button, okay?
Yeah.
All right, Adam. I know you were texting me, so you better hit it.
Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button, please.
Let's go.
On YouTube.
And then we got a younger guy that played for us for 2 years on green and a year on white. So it's good to like young officials. We want young coaches as well, right? To get them into the game because let's be honest, right? I mean, you need officials, you need good coaches too, right? I mean, that want to really
absolutely
be devoted, and it's a lot of time. So I tell them it's a lot of time, especially when you're young. But it can be rewarding, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. How about the new rules? We haven't touched on that. We've got new rules this year. Anything that you really like or don't like? And I know you're playing high school rules for the most part. You don't have any of the Central States teams anymore, so much. You're not affected by the different time changes on penalties.
When we do tournaments.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
The first tournament was a disaster. even though White made it to the championship, it was just the game was long. It was really long.
No delayed offsides, no tag up offsides, no ice the puck on the penalty kill.
It was, and again, you see how we run our, like our penalty kill. It's all set up on icing it and getting down there in our trap. So you can't ice it. You basically just negated the whole thing, and our guys didn't know what to do. But I'd say when we do the tournaments, you got to adjust, right? I mean, we did better the second go around on the local CCM tournament. It was a lot better. But again, I wouldn't be happy if I had to do it all the time. Let's put it that way. But in terms of the new penalties, I'd say, I mean, I haven't seen really a big issue. Some guys have called it
in the new standard. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, the new standard. I'd say a lot of guys, majority are I don't want to say like the same, but they're just their take on it is a little bit different than others, right? I mean, the guys that are more seasoned are going to call the game, I'd say, a little bit more like loose, I'd say, right? Some of the newer guys are calling, we've had games where I've had actually, I think it might have been the tournament. It's 11 penalties. You're like this. So there's 11 penalties. Obviously, with the new rule, 12, I'm toast.
Yeah.
And obviously, I didn't agree with a handful of them. And that last 8 minutes, we happened to be up by, I don't know, I think 4 or 5. We were telling our players, don't touch anyone.
Anybody.
So basically, it was a no hit on our part hockey game. Like if guys were coming, this is just like an Olay, wave the red flag and just let them go, or I'm toast the next game. Yeah.
Let the bull go by.
Yeah, but if this is the Saturday afternoon game, that means you get Saturday night off, and you get to go downtown for dinner. So
very, very true. My wife would be happy. Everyone else would be, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And I just,
how does you just brought up a point, like, how is it for your wife? I know you're out a lot of nights, a lot of weekends. She deals with it. You're in the bar restaurant business too, I think. So you're probably typically a night guy. I guess you guys built your relationship on lunches, didn't you?
Yeah, basically. It's a good point. Yep. She calls herself a hockey widow during the season.
Mine too.
That's what my wife does.
Mine too. Yeah. It was built on lunches, a lot of lunches.
Thankfully, we've been together a long time, so she knows how it works, and it's not easy, that's for sure. Juggling everything and out of town, and but you got to make time, right? You just make time. You skip a practice here and there. That's why you got your good coaches, and go grab some.
Yeah, he just froze up on us. Oh, there he is.
There you go.
It's not easy.
Okay. Well, very good. Yeah. Well, we're starting to run out of time here, I guess. Really appreciate your doing this, Chad. I know I've been talking to you about this for a long time, but here we are about a year and a half later, still doing it. So
it's awesome you guys are doing it.
Yeah, we've had some fun. So,
a lot of fun.
Tell some of your players to check in with us and watch the show so we can get some good questions out of them.
You should talk to some of them. That's what you should do. You should get one of our captains on and get some things from their perspective.
We would love to do that. Seriously, if you can make that happen, we would be more than happy to have one of them on.
Our green captain this year is Will Krager. He's a good kid, well-spoken. I'm sure if we could find a time to get him on, he would be more than happy to do it.
We will make that happen on our end if you can make it happen on yours. We'd love to do it. Okay, fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll get on whenever you guys want. Just let me know.
Great. Well, really appreciate it. Anything else you want to talk about before we go?
No, I'm good. I appreciate it, guys.
No questions, nothing on rules or anything or situations? Like, that was a good one that you brought up about
the last change was probably the biggest one.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
I get it.
Yep.
I get it.
All right.
It's frustrating. But thank you.
Yep. Thank you for being with us. Thanks to everybody that checked us out today and all the questions. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button and smash all that good stuff and the notification button. And if you enjoyed the show, feel free to go to buymeacoffee.com/refroom and you can buy us some caffeine. We would enjoy it. Let's see. We got one last one here. He says, from Mr. Hirsch. Thanks, Coach. Glad to hear the convo. Okay.
Happy
All
to do
right.
it.
I think he means conversation. That's just,
He does.
Yeah, it's like LOL. All right. Anyway.
All right.
All right. So on behalf of the Ref Room, I'm Scott Smokin Silz with Brad Baumruck. Our guest today was new Trier coach Chad Bidwell. Thanks for doing it, Chad. I'm sure we'll see you on the ice soon. And you guys have a great week. And we'll talk to you again next week, starting at noon. Peace out,
Sounds good.
everybody.
Take care, guys.